Hello and welcome to my studio. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this image. This picture demonstrates how the choice of background can influence the whole look and feel of an image. The smooth graduation complements the crispness of the subject, adding to the mood of the final composition. And in this video I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. So let's start with the subject, which are these wine glasses. So I'm just going to place these on this piece of white Perspex. Now I'm using this white Perspex as a base because it has a very smooth surface. I find this much smoother to use than a piece of paper. If you had seamless paper, it would have a texture to the surface. So this has very little texture in it. Alright, so this is our subject and this will form the background. So moving a bit further forward, I'm using this tripod with a geared head just to give me some fine control. And I'll be using this digital SLR, which is tethered into Capture One software, and I'm using that in conjunction with a 24 to 70mm zoom lens. On the top of the camera here, I have a flash sync trigger. Alright, so with all that done, what I'll do is just pop this on the top of the tripod here, and we'll just check the composition. So I'm just going to start by focusing up the image, about there somewhere, and I'll just zoom that in maybe a little bit to start with, about there. Okay, so with that done, the next thing to do would just be to take a test image under the house lights just to see what contamination or anything I'm getting. Okay, so you can see from the result that I'm getting here at these camera settings, so the whole thing is set in manual. I'm using a 50th of a second at 100 ISO with an aperture of 2.8. And that's giving me a reasonable image with no flash. Now what I actually want is a very dark image here because I don't want the house lights to influence the final picture. So what I'm going to do is adjust the shutter speed here from 1/50th of a second to the sync speed for this camera, which is 1/250th of a second. I'm also going to increase the aperture from 2.8 to a more usable, say f11. Now that should give me a reasonable depth of field. Alright, so with these new settings set, let me just grab another image. There, and you can see in this image that the majority of the picture has disappeared, but we're still getting the highlights from the house lights. Now this is basically a bit of physics. The specular highlights that you're getting from the lights in the room here will not degrade over distance due to the inverse square law as much as the general ambience of the light. So in order to get rid of those highlights, when we actually take the real picture, I'll have to turn the house lights out. Okay, so with all that done, the next stage would be to set up some flashlight. So for the flash for today, I'm going to be using this Profoto D2. This is a mains-powered studio head, and I'm going to be using that in conjunction with this 4-foot by 1-foot strip box. And what I'm going to do with those is just place them above the back of this background that I've got here. So I want to place it about here. There, so that's got that in position. So I've put this on a C-stand so that it is central to the background that I'm using. And I've got it at a height which is possibly okay. I just need to check in the viewfinder just to make sure I can't see this. I want to get it as close as I can to the background here without it actually being in the image. So let's just have a little look. Yeah, that seems okay. Right, so the next thing to do would be just to take a test exposure with this on an arbitrary energy level. So I'll just make sure that's on, which it is, and we'll just grab an image. There, and you can see we're starting to get an image coming together now. Incidentally, you can also see these highlights which are being formed from the house lights in the studio here. But we'll forget about those for the time being. So the rest of it is starting to get there. Now, in the image that I showed at the beginning of the video, the background was right behind the subject, and obviously in this image it isn't, not yet. So in order to make that happen, what I'm going to do is raise up the back of this background sheet. So this is actually just on a stand at the back here, so I can just lift it up very gently until I get it in the correct position, like this. There we are. So that's in the more or less the right position now, I think. And as you can see, we've got a nice gentle curve on this piece of Perspex now. And the light is now quite a lot closer to this part of the background. So we might need to adjust that just to change this distance. As you change this distance, it will change the graduation on the background. Let's grab an image and see what it looks like. Okay, so you can see from this image that we're getting this graduation across the background now, and it is extremely smooth. You can see just what quality that is. I think overall the exposure is a little low. I need to increase the energy somewhat. So I'll just start by adding 2 stops of energy to that light, like so. And we'll grab another image. Yes, that's coming along quite nicely, I think. Okay, so far so good. So the next thing I'm going to do is just change the colour of this light by adding a gel to it. So if I add this blue gel in at the top here on this light, that will change the output of this to this colour of blue. So having inserted the filter in the light, let's grab another image and see how that's looking. There, that's really starting to come together now. The blue filter has taken out quite a lot of the energy, so what I'm going to do is just add maybe half a stop more just to compensate for the filter. So I'll just do that now, like that, and we'll just take that again. There we are, that's better. So if I show you what we had before, it's like this, and this is what we've got now. Okay, so that is very nearly there now, and you can see from the image that we're getting that the graduation's looking quite nice, but the edge of the glass here isn't that well defined. So what I want to do is just add a little more definition just to the edge. So what I'm going to use is a black flag like this. I'm just going to place this behind the glass, about there somewhere. I'll just check that in the viewfinder. Yeah, that seems to be doing it. What I'm looking for is a black line appearing down the side of the glass here. So I'll just grab that image. Yes, and you can see in here that we're now getting much more of a defined line down the side of the glass. If I go to the previous image, there is one, but it's not very well defined. And on here, we've got a nice black line running right down the side of the glass. Now obviously you also have the flag itself in the picture. But that doesn't really matter because we can use multiple exposure to get rid of that in post-production. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But first of all, I'm just going to add another one just to the other side of the glass, just to even it up a little. So I'll just place this here somewhere, like this. And we'll just try that as well. There, that has added this bit to this side of the glass. If I go to the previous image, that's what we had before, that's what we've got now. Right, so at this point it's worth remembering that the house lights are still on, and therefore we're still getting all of these highlights in the image that we don't want. So what I'm going to do now is just turn on the modelling light on the studio head there, like this, and I'll turn out the house lights. So with the house lights out, I'll just take that image again. So there you go, you can see that we've actually now got rid of all of the highlights that were in the glass before. And this is what we've got now. So this is a good image. So we'll just mark that one, like so. Now with that done, what I can do is now remove these flags, just very carefully, without touching anything else. That. And I'll just grab another image. This time I'm going to do it from the software so that I don't have any chance of moving the camera. There. We'll mark that one as well. So with that exercise complete, we can turn the house lights back on and also turn the modelling light out, like so. Right, so that's it for capturing the images. What I'm going to do now is go over into Photoshop and do the post-production. So here we are in Photoshop, and I've loaded up the two images that we captured in the studio. This is the one with the black flags in it, and this is the one that we took right at the end without the black flags. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just make a stack of those two images. So I'm just going to go to File, come down to Scripts, down to Load Files into Stack, and ask it to add the open files. Now I'm not going to ask it to attempt to automatically align the source images because it's almost certainly going to get confused by the black flags. So I'm just going to click on OK, and we'll align it by hand in the next stage. Okay, so that's now made me a stack. This is the one with the black flags in the image. I can turn that off, and that will reveal the one underneath it without. Okay, so just to check that these are actually in something like the same position, what I'm going to do is just drop the opacity of the top layer here to about 50%, somewhere around there. And you can see that they're actually not quite in the right position. So just using the arrow keys on the keyboard, I'm just going to move that around a little. There, until it's in about the right place. That looks about right to me. Okay, so with that thing done, I can now just change the opacity back to normal again, like so. So now to get rid of these bits. Now the easiest way to do that would be with this layer selected. I'm just going to add a layer mask, like so, and just make sure that I've got black as the foreground colour. I'll find a brush which is about the right size, and it's very soft, so that's good. And basically what I'm going to do is just brush away the bits of the image that I don't want. So around here and round here, like that. Now a way to just see what your mask is looking like is just to turn off the background like so, and now you can see which bits you've got as an active part. So actually what I could do is just take a bit more off here, like that, and just clean up the rest of the image. There, and once that's done, we can just put the background back in, like that. Okay, the next thing to do is just to address these parts at the top here, where it seems to have not quite covered the background. I wasn't that bothered about that when capturing the images because I knew that I could correct this in post-production. Now, I find the easiest way to do something like this would be to actually just make a stack of the two layers that I've got at the moment. So just click anywhere to deselect the two layers, then holding down the Shift key, the Control key and the Alt key on the keyboard, just press the E key, and that will make this stamp layer, which is a combination of everything which is underneath it. So this layer is now active, and what I'm going to do is just go to Filters and just come down to Liquify, like so. Now in here I've got a very large brush selected, and what I'm going to do is just grab the corners with the big brush like this and just move them out, like that. Now just do the same on the other side, like so. There. All done, just click on OK. There, and that has corrected those two bits at the top there quite nicely. Right, so finally I just want to look at what sort of crop I'm going to use. So I'll just click on the crop tool there. I'm going to pick a ratio of 16:9. Yeah, that's looking all right, but I think I'd like to just take it out from the sides a bit, just to extend the background slightly on both sides. There, move that round to about there somewhere. So by using content aware at the top here, just make sure this box is ticked. Photoshop will literally make up the difference and should make up the sides here to blend those two bits in. So let's just see what sort of a job it makes. There. Well, that is pretty nearly perfect. I think they've done, Photoshop has done a very good job of filling in those sides, and that has made quite a striking image. So this just illustrates what you can do with a single light and a bit of technique. You can add quite a lot of mood and narrative to what is a very simple composition. And I think the final result has worked very, very well. Okay, well I hope you like watching how I made that picture, and if you like watching these sort of things, do click on the other images as they appear, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.